What happens when two powerhouse women in entertainment clash over something deeply personal? What unfolded between Trisha Yearwood and Kelly Clarkson was unlike anything ever seen on daytime television. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife, and by the end, one of country music's biggest stars walked off stage in front of millions of stunned viewers. The episode of The Kelly Clarkson Show was supposed to be a routine promotional appearance for Trisha. She was there to discuss her latest cookbook, share a few heartwarming stories about life with Garth Brooks, and maybe perform a little something for the audience. Kelly, as always, had done her homework, preparing thoughtful questions meant to highlight Trisha's warmth, humor, and relatability. The audience buzzed with excitement, phones ready to capture what they expected would be another fun, easygoing celebrity interview. But the moment Trisha walked onto the stage, something felt off. Her trademark radiant smile seemed forced, her posture unusually stiff, and there was a guarded look in her eyes that Kelly picked up on immediately. The opening minutes went smoothly enough. Kelly gushed over Trisha's new recipes, asking about her inspiration for blending Southern comfort with healthy eating. "You know, Kelly, cooking has always been my therapy," Trisha replied, her tone carrying a subtle edge that most viewers probably missed. "When life gets complicated, when people start making assumptions about your personal life, the kitchen is where I find my peace." Kelly raised an eyebrow, surprised by the shift in tone. That wasn't the direction their pre-show chat had suggested. Trying to keep things light, she smiled and said, "That's beautiful, Trisha. And speaking of your personal life, I have to say, you and Garth seem more in love than ever. What's the secret to keeping that spark alive after all these years?" The question lingered in the air a moment too long. Trisha's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly before she answered, her words slow and deliberate. "Well, Kelly, I think the real secret is respecting boundaries, understanding that some things should remain private, especially when you're in the public eye." Kelly immediately sensed the tension thickening between them. The warm, easy tone of the interview evaporated, replaced by something far more charged. She glanced at her producers off camera, who looked equally confused. Trying to steer things back to safer ground, Kelly said gently, "Of course, privacy is so important. But your fans love seeing those glimpses of your life together. The posts, the way you both support each other's careers. It's really inspiring." Trisha leaned forward, her expression hardening. "You know what's not inspiring, Kelly? When talk show hosts start spreading rumors about people's marriages based on nothing but gossip and speculation, when they take a single photo or casual comment and twist it into some dramatic narrative just to entertain viewers." The studio fell silent. Kelly blinked, clearly caught off guard by the accusation. "I'm sorry, Trisha," she said carefully. "I'm not sure I understand what you're referring to." "Oh, I think you understand perfectly," Trisha snapped, her southern drawl sharpening as her emotions rose. "Last month on this very show, you spent 10 minutes dissecting a photo of me and Garth at a restaurant. You questioned why we were sitting across from each other instead of next to each other. You wondered aloud if there was trouble in paradise, all because we weren't holding hands in one single photo." Kelly's face flushed. She remembered the moment, one of her lighthearted celebrity spotting segments where they analyzed paparazzi photos. It was meant as harmless fun, but she hadn't realized how personal it felt to the people being discussed. "Trisha, that wasn't meant to be malicious," Kelly said quickly. "We were just having fun with celebrity moments. I certainly never meant to imply there were problems in your marriage." "Intent doesn't matter when the damage is done," Trisha shot back, her voice trembling slightly with emotion. "Do you know what it's like to have your mother call you crying because she saw a talk show host suggesting your marriage might be in trouble? To have your stepkids worry their family is falling apart because some television personality decided to turn a private dinner into public speculation?" The room was completely still. Even the audience, usually full of laughter and applause, sat frozen, realizing they were witnessing something raw and painfully real unfold before their eyes. Kelly's usual quick wit seemed to abandon her as she struggled to find the right words. "Trisha, I am so sorry," she finally said, her voice soft and sincere. "I had no idea that segment caused you and your family such pain. That was never my intention." But Trisha wasn't done. The floodgates had opened, and years of bottled-up frustration toward the media and toward Kelly herself came pouring out. "Your intention doesn't erase the hurt, Kelly," she said firmly. "And it's not just you. It's this entire culture of treating people's lives like entertainment, of assuming that because we're public figures, every part of our existence is fair game for commentary and analysis. Kelly straightened slightly, her voice taking on a calmer, more professional tone as she tried to steer the moment back toward civility. "You're absolutely right," she said carefully. "And I want to use this as a learning moment. How do we, as people in the media, do better? How do we respect boundaries while still connecting with our audiences?" For a moment it seemed like Trisha might soften, might take the olive branch being extended, but then something hardened in her expression. Her next words sliced through the room like a knife. "You want to know how to do better, Kelly? Stop pretending you care about boundaries when your entire career is built on crossing them." The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Kelly's face went pale and the studio fell utterly silent. The audience shifted uncomfortably in their seats, realizing they were no longer watching a light-hearted daytime interview, but a deeply personal confrontation. Kelly's voice, barely more than a whisper, finally broke the silence. "Trisha, I think that's unfair. I've always tried to be respectful in how I approach these topics." Trisha let out a short, bitter laugh that sent chills through everyone in the room. "Really? Do you remember when you did that segment about celebrity couples who might be headed for divorce? You put a picture of me and Garth right up there on the screen and speculated that we were having problems because he'd been touring without me." Kelly's defenses immediately rose. "That was taken completely out of context," she protested. "We were discussing how difficult it can be for couples to maintain relationships in this industry. It wasn't personal. Everything is personal when you're talking about real people's lives." Trisha's voice cracked with emotion. "You sat there with your panel of experts dissecting my marriage like it was a case study. You analyzed photos like you were some kind of relationship detective. Meanwhile, I was at home watching my husband's face as he saw people questioning our love on national television." Kelly opened her mouth to respond, but Trisha wasn't finished. Her emotions had fully taken over, her voice trembling yet powerful. "And it's not just the marriage stuff, Kelly. Remember when you spent an entire segment talking about my weight? You brought on your nutritionist and used my red carpet photos as examples of how women in their 50s struggle with body image. You never asked my permission. You never stopped to think about how it might feel to have my body analyzed and critiqued in front of millions." The audience was riveted now, hanging on every word. This wasn't television, it was raw, unfiltered truth spilling out under bright studio lights. Kelly's composure was crumbling. "Trisha, I understand you're upset and I hear what you're saying," she said shakily. "But I think you might be misremembering some of those segments. We've always tried to approach these topics with sensitivity." "Sensitivity?" Trisha's voice rose another octave. "You want to talk about sensitivity? How about when you had that cooking segment where you tried to recreate one of my recipes, but kept joking that it was probably too fattening for your audience? You even suggested I should consider healthier alternatives because, and I quote, 'some of us aren't as naturally blessed with good genetics as others.'" Kelly's mouth fell open. She clearly remembered the segment, and the realization of how her words must have sounded hit her like a freight train. "Trisha, that comment was about me, not you," she said quickly. "I was making fun of my own struggles with weight and diet." "Were you, Kelly?" Trisha's tone softened, but her pain was unmistakable. "Because sitting at home watching it sure didn't feel that way. It felt like you were using my recipes as an excuse to talk about weight and appearance. Like everything I create, everything I share with the world, gets filtered through this lens of judgment about my body, my marriage, my choices." The tension in the studio was suffocating now. Camera operators zoomed in tighter, capturing every tear, every flicker of emotion. What had started as a simple interview had transformed into something historic. A public reckoning between two women under the unforgiving glare of live television. Kelly's producers were scrambling behind the scenes, frantically whispering through headsets, trying to decide how to handle the situation unfolding live before millions of viewers. But neither woman seemed aware of the chaos. All that existed in that moment was Kelly and Trisha, locked in an emotionally charged standoff that had shifted from uncomfortable to unforgettable. Kelly took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. "Trisha," she said softly, "I can see that I've hurt you and that was never my intention. But I have to ask, why didn't you reach out to me privately about this? Why are we having this conversation on live television?" Trisha's laugh was sharp, void of humor. "Oh, I did reach out, Kelly, 3 times," she said, her tone laced with both pain and frustration. "I called your production office after that marriage speculation segment. I sent a personal email after the weight comments. I even had my publicist contact your people after you spent 20 minutes analyzing my outfits, suggesting maybe I should update my style for my age." Kelly blinked, stunned. I never received any of those messages." "Maybe you didn't," Trisha countered, her voice steady but simmering with emotion. "But your people did. And every time I got the same answer. We'll pass it along." "Well, I'm here now, Kelly, to tell you something directly." She leaned forward, eyes blazing with conviction. "You have a platform. You have influence. When you make casual comments about people's lives, when you turn real human beings into characters in some ongoing soap opera, there are consequences. Real consequences. For real people." Kelly's face softened, her expression shifting from defensive to remorseful. "Trisha," she said earnestly, "I want to make this right. Please tell me how." "You want to make it right?" Trisha repeated, standing up from her chair. Her voice trembled, not with anger now, but with the sheer weight of everything she'd held back for years. "Then stop treating people's pain like content. Stop turning personal struggles into talking points. Stop pretending that because someone is famous, they stop being human." The studio was so quiet you could hear the hum of the cameras. Kelly remained seated, looking up at Trisha with a mixture of remorse and confusion. "Please don't leave like this," she pleaded. "Let's work through this together." But Trisha was already removing her microphone, her hands shaking as she fumbled with the wire. "I've spent 20 years in this business being polite, being accommodating, being the good guest who laughs at the jokes and plays along with the games," she said, her voice breaking. "But I'm done pretending that this is okay." She turned toward the cameras, addressing the audience directly. "To everyone watching, remember this. The people you see on television are real human beings with real feelings. We're not characters in your favorite show. We're mothers, wives, daughters. And we deserve the same respect you'd want for your own family." Kelly made one final, desperate attempt. "Trisha, please, sit back down. We can use this moment to have a real conversation about media responsibility, about how we can all do better." Trisha paused at the edge of the stage, turning back to face Kelly one last time. Her voice was quieter now, but somehow more powerful than when she'd been shouting. "Kelly, I want you to understand something," she said, her words heavy with truth. "This isn't about being mean or vindictive. This is about being heard. For years I've watched you and others turn people's lives into entertainment, and I stayed quiet because I thought that was just part of the business. But silence makes you complicit." Kelly's eyes began to glisten with tears. The full weight of Trisha's words was sinking in, cracking through her polished exterior. "Trisha," she whispered, "I never wanted to hurt anyone. I was just trying to connect with my audience, sharing observations about the world we live in." "That's exactly the problem," Trisha replied, taking a step closer to Kelly's desk. "You think you're just observing, but you're shaping narratives. You're influencing how millions of people see someone. You're creating stories that didn't exist before you told them." The audience was completely silent, some visibly emotional, others frozen in disbelief. A few even raised their phones not to post online but to capture what they instinctively knew was a historic moment in television. Kelly wiped her tears with the back of her hand, her composure gone. "How do I fix this?" she asked quietly. "How do we fix this industry?" Trisha looked at her for a long moment, her expression softening just slightly. "You start," she said firmly, "by acknowledging that what you do matters. Every joke, every casual comment, every piece of speculation, it all matters. Because on the other side of that story, there's a real person feeling its weight." With that, Trisha turned and walked off the stage. The studio lights felt suddenly too bright, the silence too heavy. Kelly sat frozen, microphone in hand, realizing that what had just happened wasn't just a confrontation, it was a reckoning. Kelly sat in stunned silence as Trisha's words cut through the tension that filled the studio. "Did you ever think about how couples watching that might feel?" Trisha demanded, her tone firm but weary. "Did you consider that some of them might be going through difficult times and your public analysis could make everything worse?" Kelly's voice was barely audible as she admitted, "No, I didn't think about that." Trisha sighed deeply. "And that's the heart of the problem, Kelly. The industry has trained all of us to stop thinking about the human cost of entertainment. We've created a world where anything goes as long as it gets ratings, clicks, or engagement. But behind every story, every photo, every piece of gossip, there's a real person just trying to live their life. Trisha stepped closer to the edge of the stage, her voice growing stronger with every word. Do you know what it's like to have your appearance critiqued by people who've never met you? To have your every public moment dissected for signs of trouble or drama? Kelly shook her head slowly. No, I don't, she admitted, her voice trembling. Trisha's tone softened, but her message remained sharp. Well, I do. And I'm here to tell you it's exhausting. When you turn people's pain into content, when you make real struggles into talking points, you're not just entertaining your audience. You're teaching them that it's okay to treat human beings as objects for amusement. Kelly's eyes filled with tears. You're absolutely right, she said, her voice breaking. And I'm ashamed that it took you walking onto my stage for me to finally understand it. But what do I do with that shame? How do I move forward? For the first time, Trisha's expression softened. You use your platform differently, she said gently. Remember that the people you talk about are watching. Ask yourself before every segment, before every comment, would I want someone to say this about me or someone I love? And if the answer is no, then you don't say it. The room was silent except for the soft hum of the air conditioning. Everyone knew they were witnessing a turning point. Kelly wiped her eyes and whispered, I want to be better. I want to use my show to lift people up, not tear them down. Will you help me? Will you come back and help me figure out how to do this right? Trisha shook her head slowly, a sad smile crossing her face. Kelly, I can't fix this for you. You have to examine your own content, your own choices, your own impact. You have to decide what kind of host you want to be and what kind of show you want to have. She looked out at the audience one last time. Change is possible. Redemption is possible, but it has to start with genuine acknowledgement of the harm that's been done and a real commitment to doing better. Kelly nodded, tears streaming freely now. I hear you. I really hear you. And I promise, I'm going to do the work to be better. As Trisha turned to leave, she paused once more. This industry has the power to bring joy and connection into people's lives, she said softly. But with that power comes responsibility. The audience sat frozen, the weight of her words hanging heavy in the air. The cameras kept rolling as Kelly stood there visibly shaken, realizing that her show, and perhaps daytime television itself, would never be the same again. That moment, raw and unfiltered, transcended entertainment. It became a wake-up call for an entire industry, a powerful reminder that empathy must never be sacrificed for engagement. Trisha's courage to speak out created a defining moment, one that challenged everyone watching to rethink what it truly means to be responsible in media.